On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping. We have an update on the collision between USS Truxtun and the USNS Supply. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So we have been following this situation since it transpired back on February 11th. We've got some new information, including a new clearer video of what happened during the collision. We also have images of the ships in the port of Ponce in Puerto Rico, and we're going to break down what we know further about this accident. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. So first, we have this clearer video. The video I used the other day was pretty grainy. This one, definitely much better quality. I will have the link to just this video right here above for you, so if you want to just download that video and take a look at it without me being here. So a lot of questions about the crew members you see right here. You are far forward on board USNS Supply, because it's a U.S. naval ship. It is crewed by civilian merchant mariners. Everybody you see in the image here on board Supply are civilians. This is the station where they send across what's called the distance flags and the telephone lines. So the crews that are up here tend to be from the supply and steward department of the ship. They are not from the deck and the engine crew. So when everything happens here and you see the hits, number one, you've got a lot of issues going on here. You're supposed to maintain your station. You're supposed to remain at your station, and that's what these crew members do. You'll also hear in the background the horn being sounded by USNS Supply. That is initiating the emergency breakaway, because on the other side of Supply, on the starboard side of Supply, is USS Gettysburg, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser that is conducting an underway replenishment, a refueling operation. We're going to look at that in a minute. As either the ship's master or the chief mate, you can hear the horn sounding in the background. Okay, I'm going to zoom the crud out of this video because, again, higher quality video than what we had before. So Truxtun is now right alongside the port side of USNS Supply. Truxtun hit all the way forward, and you'll see why I know that from the images we have from Truxtun in the port of Ponce. The ship is now alongside. What we know that happens with Truxtun at this point is they're going to take way off. In other words, they're going to remove propulsion. This ship has twin props spinning at a constant speed, but variable pitch props. So more than likely what has happened is once they realize they have lost control of the vessel because the ship veers into the side of Supply, they either back down on those props, either turn the pitches to get reverse thrust, or went neutral and ended their thrust. Up forward here, kind of hard to see, but we'll get a better image later on here, is the image of the bow of Truxtun. This is where they hit right here. It looks like literally the very tip of the bow is what plunged into the side of Supply. So you can see the wash kicking up here, and Truxtun is no longer cutting through the water. In other words, she's not throwing out a bow wave anymore. So that tells me that the ship is probably either backing down or taking propulsion off at that moment. You can see the supply hoses here. These are the underway replenishment gear that was going to be sent over to Truxtun, sitting in the cradles, ready to go. This photograph was taken in the southern port of Ponce in Puerto Rico yesterday. Here you can see USNS Supply, starboard side to the berth, in Ponce, and over here, also starboard side too, is USS Truxtun. There's another Arleigh Burke destroyer just coming in at this time over here, just astern of Supply. So it is February 14th, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. But this is USNS Supply departing the port of Ponce. So obviously the damage to the vessel was not sufficient to require the ship to remain in port. Zoom in here just a bit. You can see where the damage was done. There is a penetration of the hull up here, and then there are dents and kind of bashed all the way down. I'm going to take you over to marine traffic here. This is 12 February 2026 at 1500 UTC time. This would be 1100 local time in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is 4 hours off UTC time. And you see USNS Supply coming there, pier side in the port. You'll see her here. They're going to take out at this time USNS Robert E. Peary. She heads out of port roughly at the same time. The Peary is a supply vessel, a ammunition and cargo ship. The USNS Supply is a fast combat support ship. Right here coming in, you see two tugs coming in, putting ships up here against Trailer Wharf at this time. You don't see a vessel coming in at that time, but that is Truxtun. Truxtun is not squawking her AIS. So she came in at about 1800 local time on 12 February. Fast forward to 1500 UTC time on 14 February or 11 o'clock local time in Puerto Rico. We see tugs coming to make fast to Supply and take her out of the port. This is a diagram of a Supply class fast combat store ship. The area where Supply got hit was right here. It would be above hold number 1, the ammunition hold, right here on the second deck area. So there's no damage here or no danger of a fuel spill. This is pretty high up on the vessel. Here is USNS Supply in the port of Ponce. Again, you can see that damage here right under the letter B marker here underneath the very forward port side fueling station. Again, the image where this video was shot, I showed you before, is underneath these life rafts right here. So you can see the damage that was done to Supply here. You can see the two kind of cuts here. One right here, there's a hole right here pierced into her side. And then where Truxtun's bow kind of pushed down the side. And then there's another gash right here that moves down along the side of the vessel. And you can see some of that scratching and ripping here along the hull of the ship. Another image, a little clearer this one. The lights is just a little bit different, but you can definitely see the hole and the damage here. This image came to me. This is a view of the hull from the interior of Supply looking outward. And another one just giving you that same kind of image here. You're not supposed to be seeing the water from the inside of the ship unless you're looking through a porthole. So here are images of Truxtun pierside. Now, I will note Truxtun and both Supply have been operating at a pretty breakneck schedule because of operations over in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea involving the Houthi and the Israelis, and then the most recent operation in Venezuela. Both these ships have maintained what's called a high op tempo, operational tempo. So these ships are at sea and really conducting some pretty grueling schedules these days. Unfortunately, the rust you're seeing here is fairly routine in U.S. naval ships right now. They're just not getting the maintenance and upkeep they require. So this is an image of the port bow of Truxtun, and if you look very closely here at the very tip of the bow, you can see how the very tip of the bow has been kind of peeled back to the right. It's on the other side where Truxtun hit. So what it looks like is the starboard side bow, the right side of the bow looking forward on the ship. So the very front end of the ship got peeled up. And this is looking at the starboard side. You can see USNS Supply behind them. You can always tell a USNS ship by the stack stripes, the gold, blue, and gray stack stripe. But this is the bow of Truxtun right here. And again, you can see how it was peeled up. Understand, there's a lot of good things that happened with this collision that could have been much worse. You could have fetched up the anchor here. The bow anchor on an Arleigh Burke destroyer is all the way forward because you have a bulbous bow here for the sonar underneath it. Fortunately, it doesn't appear to be any damage below the waterline, indicating that the sonar dome touched the supply, so that's a really good piece of news. Now, one of the things about Truxtun that's come out is USS Truxtun sailed from Norfolk back on February 5th. This is her leaving Navy operating base, Norfolk. But back on February 6th, we get this story by Caitlin Burchett from USNI, this is U.S. Naval Institute News, Destroyer Truxtun back underway after repair delayed deployment. So according to the story, Truxtun was back underway Friday after an emergent equipment repair forced the destroyer back to Norfolk and delayed its deployment. The destroyer departed Friday from Naval Station Norfolk. Commander Don Stonkus, a spokesman for 2nd Fleet, told USNI News. Truxtun previously departed the Virginia base on Tuesday for an independent deployment. From there, the ship was spotted sailing up the York River to Naval Weapons Station Yorktown before heading back to Naval Station Norfolk. Truxtun was pierside at Navy Station Norfolk late Wednesday through early Friday for an emergent equipment repair, but they did not specify the maintenance issue. So I have to imagine whatever the emergent repair was is going to come under investigation to try to determine what caused Truxtun to maneuver into the side of supply. So there's a lot of suspicion out there that because Truxtun was alongside USNS Supply, that the forces, the hydrodynamics between two ships sailing alongside each other at about 15 knots, you get the Bernoulli principle, and that's what caused the vessels to come in. But that's not what it appears. It appears that Truxtun lost maneuvering control, hence the sounding of the horn and the fact that Truxtun came in at such a sharp angle. So a lot of questions about underway replenishment. This is a video, this is not the underway replenishment that just took place. This is a video that was posted by the U.S. Navy. Real quick, this is the daytime symbol for being restricted in your ability to maneuver. A black ball over a black triangle over a black ball. That tells everyone who's around them that the ships cannot maneuver. They're forced to maintain their speed and courses. Again, welcome to another episode of Fun with Flags, or in this case, Day Shapes, brought to you by Dr. Sal Mercogliano. So this is USNS Supply. This is the image you would get if Truxtun had been able to come alongside. You can see that Romeo, the flag we talked about the other day, is closed up here because the ship is alongside. You have Romeo at the dip on the starboard side is coming alongside. This image is being shot from on board the former USS Enterprise, the old CVN 65. You can see Romeo is closed up there. You see the day symbols for restricted maneuverability coming in. So this is a very sophisticated maneuver. Again, the ships would make an approach. This is the style of approach that Truxtun would be doing. She would be doing this. She would be on the other side. She would be on the side we're viewing this from, the port side. But she would be making that approach, coming in from behind supply, speeding up until she is alongside roughly anywhere from 140 to 160 feet. And then they would start sending over their shot lines. You could see the crews up forward. They have their helmets on, life preservers. This is a very dangerous operation. They would shoot over shot lines. Those shot lines would then be passed across heavier lines, and then you would get the replenishment gear coming across. So this video shows you a double underway replenishment being done. The ship in the center there you're looking at is the USNS Bighorn, a Kaiser-class oiler. On the far side was USS Wasp, a LHD, a aviation support ship, an aviation amphibious vessel, and then the ship you're on right here, the viewpoint from the video, is the LSD Whidbey Island. They're going to start bringing heavier lines across until they can bring across what is known as the span wire. They jump ahead here, they have the span wire across, and now what you're going to see is the fueling hoses riding down on that span wire that's attached to Whidbey Island. And those hoses have a probe on the end of it, a male probe, and it goes into a female receiver. That allows you to connect very quickly. It also allows you to decouple very quickly. The nice thing about this arrangement is you can't pump fuel out of that hose until that coupling is in it. It's got a one-way valve on it, so it has to go into that receiver, and that will open up the receiver so that you can pump the fuel on board. You now see it connected, and now you can start pumping fuel under pressure. That's about a 5-6 inch hose right there. You need to keep the hose out of the water because if the hose trails in the water, it can rip apart. And what you don't want to do is cause those lines to separate, because then you're spraying diesel fuel and jet fuel at high pressure. You'll see they have two sets of hoses going, one forward and one aft. So if you want to learn more about underway replenishment, I'll recommend you come on over here to the FAST site. This is Military Analysis Network. They have a great section here on underway replenishment. They go into all the details with diagrams from actually the official U.S. Navy publication that discusses it. They talk about the station color helmets, what everyone's helmet means, and they go in some detail about the entire process, including a lot of photographs and images. So, to give you an idea of the frequency of how often this is done, Supply's sister ship, USNS Arctic, in 2025 completed 136 underway replenishment operations. So basically every 3 days, Arctic was conducting an underway replenishment. So besides Supply, there's almost 30 ships in the Military Sealift Command fleet, all crewed by merchant mariners, that conduct underway replenishment operations. So it's a very frequent operation. The U.S. Navy uses this to keep their ships forward deployed. It avoids them having to go into ports to refuel. Ever since the USS Cole, it's been really a mantra for the U.S. Navy to avoid refueling forward deployed vessels into port, because they can become very susceptible to attack, as happened to the Cole in Aden in Yemen in 2000. Plus, this is how the U.S. Navy has operated through World War I, and more importantly, during World War II. I did an entire video talking about logistics in World War II, in the early part of World War II, and I also discussed about the 6 fast oilers and the role they played in World War II. So we're going to get an investigation now. I expect to see Truxtun shortly sail and head out, probably heading back. They're going to assess the damage on board Truxtun. Obviously, supply is urgently needed, because you've got to maintain a fleet down there, and supply ships really don't have the grace to sit in port very long. So supply is probably heading out. Right now, her sister ship Arctic is getting ready to sail across the Atlantic with the Ford Carrier Strike Group. That was the carrier group that was in the Caribbean. It's heading across, heading over to the Mideast, potentially over to the Persian Gulf off the coast of Iran. So again, a high risk operation, but it's done very routinely. The problem is there's very thin margins for error. Going to be interested to see what comes in of this report. We just had the report released about USS Harry S. Truman and its collision. I've been working on that video and trying to get it done, but man, there's a lot of ship happening out there. I hope you appreciated this update. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit the super thanks button down below, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly, yearly subscriber. Until the next video, Sal, sign off.